How much deposit do I need for a CIS mortgage? If you're a self-employed construction worker, paid through the CIS scheme and you're trying to get on the property ladder, you might think you're up against a load of challenges. One of the biggest misconceptions I hear all the time is that you'll need a huge deposit. Well, the truth is you probably don't. And in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what deposit you'll need, and you might be surprised as how low it can actually be. Now, here's why you need to stick with me. If you go to the wrong bank or the wrong broker, someone who doesn't understand CIS payslips, you could easily end up wasting another 5 years saving for a deposit that you don't actually need. There's 5 more years of rent going out the door when you could already be in your own place. So in this video, I'll show you how much deposit you really need for a mortgage on your CIS income, how your credit score affects things, and I'll share a story of one of my clients who thought he needed 20% but got his first home with just 5%. So I'm David Sharpstone, and I help CIS subcontractors turn their CIS income into the keys for a bigger and better home. Let me tell you about Liam, a ground worker from Leeds. Liam and his partner were renting a small flat, and every time the topic of buying came up, he'd shrug it off and say, "We'll need at least 20 grand before a bank even looks at us." That was what his mates told him on site, and what the online calculators seemed to be telling him. But the problem was, with rent at nearly £1,000 a month, saving that kind of money felt impossible. He was caught in the same trap that so many people are, paying someone else's mortgage every month while feeling like owning a home was just miles away. So when Liam came to me, we went through his payslips, his credit file, and his budget. And it turned out, because he had a clean credit record and his CIS income was solid, he only needed a 5% deposit. And that worked out to £9,000 on the £180,000 house he wanted. So within a couple of months, he had a mortgage offer in hand, and instead of waiting 5 more years, he and his partner picked up the keys to their very first home. So let's break this down properly. How much deposit do you actually need for a CIS mortgage? So there are 5 key things that you need to know. So here's the first: the minimum deposit required. So if your credit history is good, you can buy with just a 5% deposit. So if the house is $200,000, you only need £10,000 as a deposit. And it's no different from someone who's PAYE employed. And a lot of lenders now accept your gross CIS income, which means you're not just being penalised just because you're self-employed. So second, having a low credit score doesn't always mean it's game over. A lot of people panic when they see poor or fair score on Experian or ClearScore. If that low score is just because you've never borrowed much, or you haven't been in the UK long enough to build up a big history, then don't worry. There are lenders who will still give you a mortgage with just a 5% deposit, as long as you don't have any actual bad credit on your file. So the third thing, older blips on your credit record don't have to hold you back forever. So let's say you had a default or a CCJ 4 or 5 years ago. It happens. Life throws things at us. The good news is, if those problems are historic and more than 3 years old, there are lenders who will still take you on with as little as a 5% deposit. So just because you made mistakes years back, it doesn't mean you have to wait another decade before you can buy a home. Fourth, what if your credit issues, they're more recent? So if you've missed a payment or even a default in the last couple of years, it can be trickier but not impossible. You might just need a slightly bigger deposit, let's say maybe 10%. You may also face a slightly higher interest rate because the lender sees you as a higher risk. But the important thing here is that it's still doable. You don't have to give up on the idea of owning your own home. And finally, number 5, where your deposit comes from, well, this really matters. Lenders want to see a clear paper trail. So if you're doing side work at weekends, make sure it goes through your books and you pay tax on it. Because if it's cash in hand with no record, you can't use it. If your deposit is being gifted, most lenders are happy as it comes from immediate family members, like your parents or siblings. But they won't usually accept gifts from mates down the pub. And here's one that I see a lot: selling a car or a van to raise your deposit. That's fine, but you need to do it properly. Get the invoice, get the DVLA slip, and make sure the money goes directly into your bank account. That way, when the lender asks, you can show exactly where every penny came from. So there you go. You might not need nearly as much deposit as you think to buy your first home using CIS income. So if you found this useful, the video on the screen now breaks this down even further and shows you how lenders actually assess your CIS income. Thanks for listening.